So I won a scholarship and I'm going to exhibit word to accept my award. Oh, okay. My name is SUNIMULLEN. I'm a part of the Fine Arts Department with a focus in painting, mostly writing, but also video making. I actually started my education in early childhood development, which I feel like heavily informs how I'm able to communicate with people, but also retain a posture of openness when I'm communicating with others. Also, I do consider myself a data collector, so I'm always very open to other perspectives and unique modes of thinking, making, and doing. I didn't know that art as a vocation was necessarily a profession or an opportunity or a possibility for me until I watched The Radiant Child, which is a documentary on Jean-Michel Basquiat. And so after that documentary, I became incredibly inspired, but also I wanted to aspire to put myself in a position or those similar spaces. So I started visiting galleries and museums heavily, specifically on opening ceremonies, because I feel like that's an opportunity for me to speak with the artists, but also meet collectors and gallery owners. I went to a gallery opening and actually met an alumna. Her name is Lenise Howard, and the first time we ever met, we had like a 2-hour conversation at the opening, sitting in the same space. I don't even remember the art, but we had that conversation. I really don't. Which was so inspiring. So we exchanged numbers, and she's actually like my acting mentor now. And she encouraged me to attend Otis, which I was hesitant because I told her I didn't want my work to be whitewashed, which I feel like is something that I'm always thinking about. So I have to put my blinders on to remain focused. And so I applied. So Basquiat for me, and through my observation for a lot of artists who are Black, that's their first point of like entry into the art world. And so I call us junior Basquiats, and it is up to us to decide whether or not we want to also expound and expand beyond that, to begin thinking about how we want to articulate ourselves visually and verbally. So this is a part of my Junior Basquiat collection, which was a part of my portfolio while getting into Otis. These next works I actually worked on during the pandemic, when I began realizing that some things are better said through writing than they are visually. And so I began doing these practice text pieces with Stan Kaplan, a part of Junior Studio. And so I feel like Otis really offers an opportunity for me to inquire and ask the questions that I want to with my professors, and I find them to be very supportive. So I've found my tribe of professors that I actively go out and talk to and ask questions to really think about these ideas that I'm interested in. Another thing too, I'm always actively aiming to problem solve, and so something that I'm always looking for are other students who are Black, but also specifically Black women. So I began creating a platform with other people and just by myself. So I have a YouTube channel where it's me inviting other Black women who are in academic spaces, specifically in creative academic spaces. I also have a podcast. And boastfully, the first person I asked to interview was Lauren Halsey, and she said yes. So that's like my first interview ever. And my whole idea was to begin unpacking what these other Black artists were thinking about, emulating some ideas, but also adding it to my repertoire as well. I started off live painting throughout the city. So I spent like half a decade just, I would call it underground shows, where we would rent gallery spaces or like homes, and we would put on these like rogue art shows and invite friends and family. And then I started writing these like haphazard proposals to put my artwork in cafes around the city, bookstores and things like that. And other people and friends, they were asking me like, how do you do this? How do you do that? And I told them like, I just send emails. So I create these templates for other people so they can also do the same things that I did. I also have a Discord channel where we have critical conversations. We live watch artist talks with one another. That mostly started during the pandemic when everything was virtual. So what I would do is stream the artist talks, and then we'd have these discussions. We also share articles and our artwork with one another so we can have these objective critiques. And then the bottom is Instagram. So I actually created an Instagram with other Black students who are on this campus. And I'm kind of sad, I'm like happy, sad that I'm leaving now too, because I've been meeting more Black students, but they're all younger than me. And in my department, there's only 2 of us, so it's a little bit bittersweet. This is an orange. So I created this 60 by 90 painting last semester as a joke to myself, but also it was incredibly tedious to make because it's super big. And just thinking about terms and phrases that have been projected onto me and other groups of people, but also thinking about how I can activate myself and activate those people. I wrote this blurb. I'm actually gonna read it. I wrote it while everyone was walking around. Whiteness is insistent, but luckily so am I. I am considering my perspective first and foremost. I am most engaged in Black critical thought, the ideas and mechanisms that assist in the energy of thriving and persevering despite projections and turmoil. I've expressed my work as nigga empathetic, and this is imperative to include and express aloud to alert those that have been ostracized that they are welcome here. I begin in Black spaces and acquire global perspectives to lean into all the versions of myself, living as proof of concept. The concept is liberty, the concept is freedom. Being at O's, this is the first time where I also haven't had to work like 3 to 4 jobs. Sometimes like I'm working virtually, but it's allowed me to work on campus so I can remain in the studio. So I work as the gallery curator. I also work in the SOC writing lab just to strengthen those abilities for myself as well. But also this scholarship really just provided me the opportunity to have time. And I feel like time sometimes is overlooked, but it is quite necessary for me to think through ideas actively and consistently without being rushed. And so I'm incredibly grateful for all of you and your contributions to my academic well-being. I have this really long essay. If you have a smartphone, I would scan it. I would highly encourage you to scan it. Scan it twice if you have to, take a picture for later, but it's titled Properly American, The Genius Effect and the Posture of Openness, Black, Female, and Academic, and Earthquake and Whiteness. And essentially I'm talking about Toni Morrison, Arthur Jafa, and bell hooks, and how they have informed my practice on critical thinking and expanding my imagination and that landscape, and how imperative it is for me to give myself permission to think through the ideas that are necessary for me to thrive, but also for other people like me to thrive as well. Thank you.